Beneath the apparent tranquility in parts of rural India lies a community suffering in silence. Their cries for help have gone almost virtually unnoticed. Crushed under the weight of a rising debt burden and plummeting incomes, poor, marginal peasants decided to take their own lives to end their suffering. Punjab, one of India's most prosperous states, is haunted by the growing incidence of farmer suicides, not by the hundreds, but by the thousands. Is there really no way out? Punjab, a land of 5 rivers and India's agricultural lifeline. A region that ushered in the Green Revolution in the late 1960s and transformed the rural landscape with high-yielding varieties of wheat, rice and other crops. But today, the Green Revolution is blamed for the country's deepening agrarian crisis. What was hailed as a technological and scientific breakthrough to eliminate poverty through modern farming methods has resulted in severe economic difficulties for the farmers and ruined the country's fragile ecological balance.
Green Revolution uses 10 times more water to produce the same amount of food. So all the surface water has been overexploited. In addition, the groundwater is being exploited so fast that within 5 to 10 years there will be no groundwater in Punjab. The monocultures have grown, all the diversity of crops Punjab grew have been destroyed.
To add to the farmers' woes, subsidies, once a linchpin of Indian economic policy, have dried up. Indian farmers have to fend for themselves with no access to bank loans, proper irrigation system, or insurance against pests and rain. Many have also turned to modified seeds, fertilizers and pesticides, believing that they will bring better returns, but at a cost nearly twice as much as ordinary ones. As a result, many are forced to take larger loans, often from moneylenders who charge exorbitant interest rates. When they failed to honor their loan commitments, they had no option but to surrender their land to the moneylenders who used it as collateral.
You see, the farmers, in order to clear the loans of the moneylenders and others, they are also mortgaging their land, they are also selling the land. And then the PAU study has shown that of the suicides which have committed, 40% of the farmers, they have sold their land.
Falling yields, rising costs and indebtedness. These are some of the key reasons which are driving small peasants and farm laborers to suicides. 40,000 farmers killed themselves in the last 2 decades and 2,000 in 2012 in Punjab. In the last few years, there hasn't been a day gone by without a body being seen floating down this canal.
In summer, we find at least 1 dead body a day in this canal. There are all types of bodies, farmers, laborers and others. Many relatives of the victims come here to look for them.
I remember the first time I was taken by the farmers and said, please come to our village, a farmer's just committed suicide. He was the village head. His loan had been for his tractor, bought 25 years ago. And he was still paying and could not pay.
Except one village, there have been suicides in every village. There are 12,000, 600 to 700 villages in Punjab. We are only giving you the story of 100 villages round about our area.
In Chotian village in southern Punjab, 29-year-old Paramjit Kaur is trying desperately to put her life back on track after the death of her husband on Deepavali Day last year. Meetu Singh, a small-scale farmer, took loans to buy fertilizers and pesticides from a moneylender. Sadly, whatever little income that he derived from his farm was used to pay the moneylenders, while he virtually had nothing left for his own family. And when his appeal for an additional loan was refused, Nitu became terribly depressed.
My husband went to see the village moneylender, but he did not get any loan. He came back home and started crying and did not speak about anything. He had his dinner and went to bed by 9 o'clock and took some tablets. I called my father-in-law, but my husband vomited and died immediately. We could do nothing.
Today, Paramjeet and her 9-year-old son are able to carry on with their lives because of the support they receive from her parents and in-laws, and have to survive on a few pieces of bread and salt every day. Still, she can't escape the attention of the unscrupulous moneylenders who continue to harass her and her family.
Moneylenders still come and harass me. So do our relatives. I keep telling them that I do not have any way of repaying the loan. It is easier to make my relatives understand, but not the moneylenders. They keep threatening us.
Small and marginal peasants and farm laborers simply find themselves with their backs to the wall, with hardly any options left. Each time they take out a loan, they're praying that the pests will stay away and the rains will be good.
We do not have any savings, and our expenses are huge. In order to meet them, we take loans which farmers cannot repay. Then, they find an easier way out by committing suicide.
Yes, it is going to lead to more destitution, increasing landlessness. If you see in the last 20 years, landlessness has increased from around 21% to almost double. Almost more than 40% of India is landless.
And once they lose their land, they begin to harbor suicidal thoughts. Life has been an endless struggle for 42-year-old Amarjit Kaur after her husband Kaka Singh committed suicide in 2000. She goes through the motions daily, even though for her there seems to be no light at the end of the tunnel. Her husband's death, though tragic, was not the first one in the family. Amarjit was initially engaged to Kaka Singh's brother, Darshan Singh, but Darshan killed himself 2 months before they tied the knot. Her husband, Kaka Singh, then took his own life just a few years after their marriage. Apart from Kaka and Darshan, 2 other brothers, Sardar Mewa Singh and Nachatar Singh, and sister-in-law Manjeet Kaur, also killed themselves.
Kaka Singh had no other way but to commit suicide. The moneylenders used to harass him. He thought it was better to die than to face harassment. Kaka had taken a loan of 60,000 rupees, partly for farming and partly for marriage. He couldn't repay the loan as there was a crop failure. Nobody helped him, and the expenses were much more than the income. Sardar Mewa Singh was the elder brother. He also took a loan of 200,000 rupees for fertilizers, urea, and opening a shop, none of which he could repay.
The bank people, they would come to the farmer's house and they will paste the notice on their walls, and then they will humiliate them in presence of their family members, in presence of their children, young children, in presence of their girls and things of this kind. And so, due to such humiliation, even young girls, you say, they have committed suicide, young boys have committed suicide.
In Balran village, where Amarjit lives, there have been almost 90 suicides so far, making it one of the hardest hit villages in Punjab. In 100 villages in the area, more than 2,000 farmers have killed themselves so far. Is there really no end to the tragedy? The increasing hardship in rural Punjab is taking a massive toll on the farmers. This is a land of hardworking and proud people. But the economic hardship and the endless misery are pushing some farmers over the edge. According to experts, 2,000 farmers in the state are killing themselves every year. And every 32 minutes, one farmer commits suicide in India.
When you're down and out, you cannot return your debt, you cannot marry your children, you cannot even give them one fair meal a day. Some families are living on only one meal a day. Then what happens? There's no way out, so they take the easy way out. Maximum number of suicides are due to pesticides because it is lying in your room. Others is if a railway line is going nearby, they go jump before the train. If a canal is going from close to you, a deep canal, you jump into the canal.
Those who end their lives leave behind their grieving families who find themselves in an even worse situation than before. But for those who already harbored suicidal tendencies, many saw no way out of their predicament, and death became the nearest option. 35-year-old Najar Singh, a father of 2 children for example, had attempted to kill himself by consuming pesticides after he was driven deep into debt. Fortunately, he survived the ordeal.
We had a 5-acre plot, parts of which my father sold at a very cheap price. I took a loan of 150,000 rupees against whatever was remaining. The initial loan increased to 350,000 rupees. I had the keys to someone's terrace where the spray was stored. I was very stressed and drank it. My parents picked me up and got me admitted to hospital, where I stayed for 2 months and 125,000 rupees was spent on my treatment. This money was taken by my parents from 5 to 7 landlords.
Banks pressurize them, not only private money lenders. Even banks want their money back, and if you have a pressure, then you know what happens is it is not so much of the economic burden. It gets into a social inferiority, that you feel your other family members know that you are in debt and bank is pressurizing you, and your social status gets compromised in a very serious way. So that builds up because let us see, the suicide is a psychological phenomenon.
Today, Najar looks after buffaloes in the house of a well-to-do villager, and his wife does odd jobs at other homes. Najar still suffers from bouts of depression and thinks of trying suicide again, but resists the urge for the sake of his children.
I have had thoughts of killing myself again, but then I think about my children, which stops me from taking the extreme step.
It is people like Najar and others whom Jaiji has been trying to help for years. A former member of the Punjab State Assembly, Jaiji now works with the farmers' families to help them cope with their personal tragedies. He has set up a college where farmers' children can get free education.
We try to prevent the suicide when the government refuses to help. We say we empower the children of these families with through education. So we set up a society called the Baba Nanak Education Society, which was to help the families of suicide victims with their children. And we give them 1,000 rupees to 1,500 rupees a month, depending on the size of the family, on condition that they keep sending their children to the school. If we don't give them that money, they will put these children to labor.
But that's just a temporary solution. Acute poverty can drive many farmers to suicide. Gurmail Kaur and her 18-year-old daughter, Jasmeet, lost their sole family breadwinner, Shibu Singh. Shibu took his own life at the age of 28, around 5 years after their marriage, and left them with a mountain of debts. Plucking cotton is something that they know best to earn a living. But that won't be enough to keep them out of trouble.
There has been one death in my family. That was 13 years ago. We became poor and were steeped in debt. The children's education had to be paid for. The household costs had to be paid for. It was too much. The debts kept increasing. My husband was a farmer, but there was nothing left in the fields.
The fields are resplendent with mustard and other crops now. But for the victims' families, there is only darkness all around. What Jaiji and others are doing to help the families is merely a drop in the ocean. Only the government can intervene in a big way to end the scourge that has afflicted not just Punjab, but some other rural parts of India. But will the government step in to resolve the deepening crisis? The Congress-led government of Manmohan Singh has responded to the current agrarian crisis by expanding rural credit. It also promised investments in rural infrastructure. But the pressure is building for the government to do more.
Originally, the excuse was the farmers who were committing suicide are adulterers or alcoholics. And I remember in my debates at that time, I used to say, even if it was so, you still need to understand why more farmers are becoming alcoholics and adulterers. You need to understand. But in any case, the data is so clear. The government's own data shows that 75% of rural farmers are in debt because of purchase of inputs. That it's basically an economic debt.
The government policies and the kind of miseries that are mounting for the peasantry and rural poor is going to lead to a major social and economic crisis, and also which will have a serious political impact. The peasantry are rising up in different parts of India, and this is something the government is going to find very difficult to handle, and it could blow very well into their face.
Punjab is not the only state that has seen a sustained increase in the number of farmers' suicides. Maharashtra in the west and Andhra Pradesh in the south are among those that are affected as well. Without a strong internal support system to help the farmers get out of their vicious cycle, the number of suicide cases among farmers is expected to soar.
There is no mechanism to provide some sort of relief to farmers when their crop fails. Things like crop insurance are not feasible in our state because although there is little chance of the crop failing, there are unforeseen circumstances like fires which make crop insurance unfeasible.
The government is at best coming up with some palliatives, which would some cosmetic changes which may satisfy some sections of farmers for a period. It often is an electoral measure which they make just a few months or about a year before the election, and they reap the benefits.
Despite the government's best efforts, the situation on the ground remains dire. In the remote villages, financially and emotionally distressed farmers are at their wits' end. They're facing a crisis of survival, where victory becomes painfully uncertain. Even after the death of a farmer, the family continues to face harassment and humiliation every day of their lives.
Our present level of debt is around 200,000 rupees. We have no savings. We harvest the crops, but the income goes to moneylenders. We don't even have enough to feed ourselves.
Since the government did not help us, Sardar Meva Singh committed suicide. All this was due to economic distress. Till date, the moneylenders keep on harassing me, but I have told them that I can't pay because I have no money. Our total debt now is around 800,000 rupees. If my children secure jobs and start earning, only then will I be able to repay the loans.
India will hold its national elections in May this year. It will be an epic battle between two political behemoths, the ruling Indian National Congress and the Bharatiya Janata Party, or BJP, with the controversial Hindu nationalist Narendra Modi at its helm. If the agrarian crisis deepens, it could pose a harder challenge for the ruling coalition to come back to power in the watershed elections that are just round the corner. In the meantime, farmers across the country continue to suffer in silence. It's a long uphill road ahead for the farmers who are caught in a perennial debt trap. While the government and policymakers are grappling to find a lasting solution, the death toll mounts with each passing day. How many more farmers will perish in India's lush green fields and swift-flowing canals before something is done to put an end to their suffering? No one knows.